Hey guys, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Thank you so much for being patient with me the last few months. If you want to know why I've kind of been absent, I made a video about it around 2 videos ago. Something like that, explaining my situation. But thank you guys so much for being patient. And thank you guys for sticking with the channel. I appreciate it more than you ever would know. I know YouTube's changing a lot. It's almost becoming like a major cable network, and we're kind of losing that smaller community aspect as a lot of these smaller channels get lost into obscurity, or people are making a living on it and it's all about views and stuff like that. Well, I'm doing my best to keep the small community aspect. I know I haven't been posting a lot, but I don't really want to post unless I really feel up to it, because it kind of shows when you're not up to it. And I'm working on it. I know I'm not always super enthusiastic, but I'm doing my best. So today we are going over my personal pick of the top games of 2015. I might cough every once in a while. Like I said in other videos, I got over bronchitis, which I get every few years, and it takes forever for me to get rid of like the residual dry cough and it kind of sucks, but I have no idea how long it'll take before that goes away. It'll probably be 2017, and then I'll have to create like 2 other lists. So I just wanted to do 2015. You may agree with some of these picks, you might not. I'm doing it a little bit before the end of the year, just in case maybe there's somebody you care about that likes video games or whatever. I don't know why you would be watching this channel unless you really, really love whoever you're trying to shop for and you somehow stumbled across my channel. That's super sweet of you. Or maybe you don't have anybody to buy for and you want to treat yourself. Well, these are my picks. You might not necessarily agree with them. That's fine. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one, unless you have some weird deformity. You're not weird if you weren't born with an asshole, but it's pretty uncommon. And sorry if there's one person that was born without an asshole that's watching this and they have some weird tube apparatus hooked up to them. I apologize. I don't know your name, so I'm just going to refer to you as person with weird tube apparatus hooked up to you instead of an asshole. But anyway, yeah, my top 10 games of 2015. I wanted to pick a lot of older games, and my honorable mentions. I believe there's a few in there actually. I have the list right in front of me. I'm acting like I'm guessing. I'm really not. I'm slightly more prepared than that, but not by much. But anyway, I've been going back and playing some of these older games that I wanted to play last year, but just like this year, there's so many games that have come out. I haven't even got to play them all. So, you know, some games that came out this year, maybe it'll be on the honorable mentions list next year. I don't know. But anyway, some honorable mentions that I wanted to put out there because I wanted to stick with 10. Just real quick, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. This is available on the PC as well as the PlayStation 4. Anything I'm talking about is on the consoles, just to make it clear. Yeah, it's like a fun little exploration adventure game. The story's sort of dark. It's very beautiful. There's 2 versions. There's one on PC that runs on the Unreal 3 engine, and I think they have a download or a patched version, or maybe a completely all new version for the PC. I don't know if it's out yet. I'm pretty sure it's probably out by now. It actually runs on the Unreal Engine 4, and the PS4 version runs on Unreal Engine 4. And it's just a beautiful game. You don't fight or do anything action oriented. It's just puzzle solving. Now, I will say sometimes the area is really dense and sometimes you might miss a small little clue or something. But if you know what you're doing, you can probably beat it in like 2 hours. It reminds me of the way that Everyone's Gone to the Rapture looks like, which I still haven't got, but I really want to because it has the vibe of that game. But anyway, I would definitely check it out. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I played a little bit of it. I have the game. I want to play it, but I want to finish Unity first. Unity is another one that I've gotten back to playing this year. I haven't quite finished it, but I really have enjoyed rediscovering it. I know a lot of people shat on it and stuff like that, but for an Assassin's Creed game, Unity is really fun, at least to me. The battle system's a little bit more technical. I kind of feel like it goes back to some of the earlier games. It's not as accessible and more about just plain like exploration and I don't know, a simplified like Assassin's Creed 4, which is awesome in its own right. But anyway, I didn't really have many problems with it that a lot of people ran into. I'm not saying the problems weren't there, but now that it's been patched to death and everything, it runs quite well. Beside Assassin's Creed 4, which was a port of like a PlayStation 3 game on PS4, that one runs good because it wasn't made for the current gen systems that are out now. That game was made with 7th gen consoles in mind. So these newer Assassin's Creed games are running like the way the Assassin's Creed games ran on 7th gen, which means I really haven't let me go back and rephrase what I'm saying. This is what it's like to film a video with me. I'm always trying to correct what I'm saying. I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game that didn't have like some sort of like frame rate problem or whatever. That's just what you're going into with Assassin's Creed. But Unity's really fun, really beautiful. Like just the detail of everything and exploring, and then you have these little time rifts or glitches in the computer system that you're playing through. I can't think of what it's called right now, but anyway, you go through different time periods and stuff like that. And then Assassin's Creed Syndicate adds like a grappling hook, 2 different characters. I haven't played much of that particular one because I want to finish Unity, which I can't stress enough I'm really enjoying. It kind of makes me sad to see it on sale for $8 to $10 because I feel really bad for the people that busted their ass making the game. I know it didn't have the perfect launch, but I mean, I feel like it's worth more than that, especially now that it's been patched. It's really a good game, and I feel like you should try it for yourself and don't let somebody talk you out of it, because you might miss out on a great experience. And Assassin's Creed Syndicate basically fixes a lot of that stuff at the price. I know London during the Industrial Revolution is super cloudy and smoggy and stuff like that, but there is a decrease in graphical fidelity. There's not as many pedestrians and stuff like that on the street. You could tell it's somewhat of a downgrade and efforts to try to keep the frame rate up, but the battle system and stuff like that is a little bit more simplified and easier to use, whereas the one in Unity is more technical. I like both versions, but they kind of function differently. Actually playing one game to another is actually slightly different, but you know, I recommend playing both. If you're new to the series, of course, go to Assassin's Creed 4, but if you want more Assassin's Creed, I would definitely suggest playing those games. Mad Max is another one. It's like an open world game in the wasteland. It has a similar fighting system to Batman Arkham. Well, any of the Batman Arkham games, where like you have like one like combat button, and then you'll get cues to like do specific things and stuff like that. It's a little bit more visceral, and you'll probably get hit a little bit more as Batman. It's like this trained martial artist and stuff like that, so Batman doesn't get hit as much, you know, unless you suck at the game or make a mistake or whatever. But it's good. I'm not 100% on the racing mechanics, but I've had a fun time, and I haven't played it nearly as much as I would like to. I want to go back, but I've been playing other games that I've enjoyed, which is why it's in the honorable mention side, because I haven't got to play it as much as I want to. Maybe it'll be on a different list at a different time. I don't know, but it's a great game. Definitely look into it if you're curious about it. Final Fantasy Type 0. The graphics are kind of discouraging at times because it's a PC port, but it's an interesting take on the Final Fantasy franchise. It's more of an action-oriented battle system, and it kind of takes place relatively in the same area, and it's different, and I would definitely check it out. Just why it came, first of all, why it came out on PlayStation 4 versus PlayStation 3 is beyond me, but I've noticed that even like a game that can easily be put on PlayStation 3 sometimes just comes out like on the Vita and the PlayStation 4. For example, they recently released Super Star Wars, and it came out, I believe, on the Vita and the PlayStation 4, and that other, what's it, World of Final Fantasy, I don't know, they're not like supporting the PlayStation 3. I think the last PlayStation 3 game that I saw that wasn't like Call of Duty, and that was a pretty gimped version that just has online, was the last Tales game, Dysteria or whatever. I'm probably saying it wrong, I don't have it written down. But anyway, I would definitely check it out. It's probably cheap because I don't think a lot of people are into it. I think they were hesitant to release it here to begin with. Obviously, it was made to be more of a PSP game. You'll notice some things just don't look right on PlayStation 4, but the character models look amazing on the main characters, and then all of a sudden you see these bland textures of brick walls, and some of the other character models look like they're constructed out of slightly more advanced Legos. It's just graphics don't make a game. That's why I'm saying that you should check it out if it seems like something you might be into, but they're not consistent. Sometimes there's parts of the game that looks really good, the lighting and stuff is great, but I don't know. Infamous First Light, I don't know if I mentioned this on the last list or whatever. I know I played it early in the year, and I would like to get a physical version of it. It's a standalone expansion pack of Infamous Second Son, which is also a game that I really like, but First Light, even though it's significantly shorter, you only get one power. I don't know. To me, it just blows it away in fun factor. I think the character Fetch is a lot more likable. She has a more interesting story, and the fact that you focus on her one power and stuff like that, I don't know. And the gameplay itself just seems a little bit more refined, and even the frame rate seems a little bit better. I don't know if they messed around with it, but I don't know. I have to play them side by side. I haven't really played Second Son enough after I played that to really compare, to see maybe they fixed the frame rate in patches. But the frame rate in Infamous First Light seems great, and I guess I gotta get the PAL version, because that's definitely one game that I don't just want on my hard drive. I would really like a physical version of it, and if you're a PlayStation Plus member, at one point you would been able to get it free, which is how I got it. But you know, once I don't have the PlayStation Plus subscription, then I won't have it anymore, so I want to just get the disc. Another game I'd want to mention is Never Alone. It's a cool little puzzle 2D platformer of a native Alaskan. I don't know if the term Eskimo is derogatory, but you know, you're like this little girl who has this, I can't remember if it's a wolf or just a husky, but you go on an adventure with this little dog and stuff like that. And what's cool about it are the little unlocks. Instead of getting some token just to get a trophy, you actually get documentary footage of like the culture and the folklore and everything it was based on, and it's really awesome. And it's one of the cooler little indie titles that I've played in a long time, and I would definitely recommend playing it. Again, that was another free one. I don't know if you checked it out or not. Unfortunately, it's not on the list anymore. One thing you got to make sure to do, if you have PlayStation Plus and you don't plan on playing the game right now because you don't want to use the hard drive space, you just click download and then cancel it. That way it'll be in your library and then you can download it at a later time. Because if you don't do that and after it's not on the list anymore, then you're not going to be able to download it again. So make sure it's on the list, because as long as you're a PlayStation Plus member, even if you don't renew your subscription for a while and then pick it up like a year later, all that stuff is still going to be in your library to download. It just will only activate if you're a PlayStation Plus member. You don't actually get to keep the game. That's why I said I would like to get a physical version of Infamous First Light, just because of that. But yeah, just make sure like you click download, so if you want to play the game you can play it later before they take it off the list. Little Big Planet 3 is a game I don't think a lot of people played. It's probably really cheap now. It's just a good 2D platformer, and there's a huge community of people that make their own levels, which is really awesome. So it's like unlimited gameplay. It's like Sony's version of Mario Maker, except it has its own campaign, and for the first time, like, most of the characters talk instead of talking all gibberish and stuff like that. Sometimes I don't even end up playing the main game. It's also available for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. So far, all the games I mentioned are games I played on the PlayStation 4, if that helps at all. But yeah, it's a good game, and I think more people should play it. Resident Evil Revelations 2, it originally came out as an episodic title where I think it was every week a new episode came out. It came out on disc pretty fast, but if you like Resident Evil, the first Revelations, and it's not quite the survival horror kind of Resident Evil as like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Code Veronica, and Resident Evil 0, which I can't wait in January for that to come out. But it kind of has the difficulty and horror aspect of Resident Evil, the original Revelations, and I guess Resident Evil 4. I guess that would be fair to say. The graphics are a little bit, I don't know, simplified, I would say. They still look nice or whatever. If you're a graphics whore or whatever, it might bother you. But, yeah, like, I would definitely check it out if you like Resident Evil series. I think it's a great game. One thing I'm not too crazy about is his emphasis on 2 players. I haven't played with 2 players. I think you can play in split screen or you can play online co-op with a partner, but you can play it by yourself and you just switch between characters. But I imagine it'd be a lot easier if you had someone else to play the game with you. But it doesn't get in the way too much. It's just one character fights, and that's the character you really want to be, instead of like the helper character that like shines their flashlight or whatever. But all in all, I've only played it single player without co-op, but the co-op option is there, and it's a fun game single player. I just missed the solo play of the other Resident Evils, but it seems to be a ongoing theme with these newer Resident Evils that are coming out, where 2 people have to play at the same time, or it's controlled by AI partner, which I don't know, sometimes it kind of gets annoying, but it works. I really liked I was one of the few people that actually liked Resident Evil 6. I wasn't crazy about Resident Evil 5, but more people seem to like 5 than 6, but it's whatever. I might do another video on 6. I think I did a video on 6's demo, but I never did the whole thing. But yeah, Resident Evil Revelations 2, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And if you haven't played the HD remake of the original Resident Evil, I would definitely check out the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 physical release coming out in January. I don't know the exact day, but definitely try to look that up if you're interested, because I don't really care for Resident Evil 0 that much. I just kind of want a physical copy of the PlayStation 4 version of the Resident Evil HD remake, and I'm hoping 0 will maybe grow on me. I didn't like it all that much on the GameCube, but maybe I'll like it on the PlayStation 4 now that I have a more mature gaming palette. I don't know. But yeah, I actually imported the version, and I probably said in the video that I recorded it on, of the HD remake of Resident Evil, but it was the PS3 version. And you know, it's like having the DVD and wanting the Blu-ray just to get that bump in resolution, because the PS4 version runs at 1080p. How they didn't achieve 60 frames per second is beyond me. I'm not gonna complain. I just don't know how it wasn't optimized. I mean, I don't see it being like this massive, like, graphically intensive game. I don't get why it didn't run at 60 frames per second, but you know, it's fine, because that kind of game really doesn't need to run at 60 frames per second to function. Like, you don't need quick reflexes. It's more of a slower paced game. But, you know, it would have been nice still. I could totally see them doing it. Heck, if they can get The Last of Us to run at 60 frames per second, I'm pretty sure they could get Resident Evil HD remastered to run at 60 frames per second, especially since it ran 720p on the PlayStation 3 flawlessly, and there's not that much of an upgrade resolution. Of course, it's enough for me to make an excuse to want the physical copy on PS4, but it also comes with the 0, so whatever. But anyway, that's the honorable mentions. I really need to get onto this list. So first, for number 10, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 3. The PlayStation 4 version is the one that I played. It has an interesting single-player campaign that takes place in the future. It kind of has like a Terminator-like feel where you're fighting robots and stuff. Since it's a Treyarch or Triarch, I don't know which is the right way to say it, game, it has a little bit more gore, but in a long time, this is like the Call of Duty I've seen that has like the most modes. Like, the campaign isn't particularly long, but after you've done the campaign, there's another campaign that's unlocked with zombies. I mean, it's win-win. And that's not even the zombie mode. It has a zombie mode that has its own little storyline with it. Then it has multiplayer, and to top it all off, it also has freaking split-screen co-op for the single-player campaign. I haven't played the multiplayer yet, but there's so much content in this game. It's worth its value. If you're bitching about some of these online-only games that only have stuff for online people, like, this is a perfect example of an online game with tons of single-player stuff. Some of the things I wish it had in it was that I don't really care for the fact that you only have your weapon and you slowly upgrade your weapon, and that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of discouraging that you can't go and pick up the enemy's weapon like in an emergency. That's one thing I always liked about the Call of Duty games. Sometimes I would have this cool weapon, I get tired of it, I'd use whatever the enemy's using, and then I wouldn't have to stress out about ammo. I mean, running out of ammo in this game is never an issue. There's always like some sort of crate that has ammo and stuff in it, so it's not an issue, but it's kind of weird not to go over and pick up the enemy's weapons. I mean, story-wise, I guess it makes sense because it's in the future and everybody's DNA or whatever is assigned to that specific weapon. But there's cool little sections in the story that I'm not gonna go into, but there's some great little surprises that might go back to earlier Call of Duties in a unique way. Speaking of which, one of the things I wasn't too fond of as well was that it doesn't have a lot of connections with the Black Ops games. This doesn't feel like a Black Ops games beside the zombie mode, the added gore. I mean, it has the refinement that the companies used to having with their games, but it doesn't have as dark, gritty feel as like Black Ops and part of Black Ops 2. The reason why I say part of Black Ops 2 is that I didn't like the Strike Force missions, which I am so happy they didn't include in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. But the future missions are alright, but I feel like now that we have Advanced Warfare, it was Treyarch's. I'm just gonna call it Treyarch for right now. If it's Treyarch, sorry, but I thought that this was Treyarch's perfect opportunity to have a game take place in the past again, like the first Black Ops, the best Black Ops in my opinion. But they didn't. They went to the futuristic route again, so now we have 2 Call of Duty franchises. I don't know if they'll continue Ghost. I know a lot of people don't like Ghost. I personally thought Ghost was just as good as like the Modern Warfare games. I always feel like the Treyarch games, like the Black Ops series, and even though it's called World at War, I always feel like World at War always felt like Black Ops 0, I guess, the prequel to Black Ops. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a Black Ops game, and there's not a lot of connections. There's a few like mentions of stuff and name drops from previous games, but that's about it. And I know the story was completed and stuff like that, but I just wish that even if you played as different characters, that you'd have like maybe the Vietnam era, the Korean War, World War II. I don't know. I just feel like that's missing from newer games now. And like I said, there's some surprises in the game. I won't spoil it for you, but like I said, after you beat this futuristic level, instead of like having a reskinned zombie version, there's actual literal like story content involving like this zombie apocalypse like mode, not mode, but like campaign. And then they have the zombie mode that's typical, and it has freaking Jeff Goldblum in it, and Ron Perlman, Heather Graham, and then I don't know what the other dude's name is, but you'll recognize him. Apparently I don't have a lot of movies with that guy in them, but just playing as Jeff Goldblum and listening to his commentary makes me wonder why he's not in other games. But yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, always a pleasure when Treyarch makes a Call of Duty game. It's what you come to expect with Call of Duty. Like I mentioned, the sort of disappointing aspects, but it's a nice little treat. And I Advanced Warfare was actually a nice little treat, but I think that as far as the Call of Duty games go, they need to make one Call of Duty in the future and keep it there. If they want to have a futuristic Call of Duty, make it. But please don't make a futuristic game the next year by a different company. Let the company... Maybe that's what Treyarch wanted to do. But I would like it if you had different Call of Duty experiences during different timelines. I know they're in different universes technically, but yeah, I would like a Call of Duty with like real weapons and mechanical stuff that I understand how it works. Although this one was less, even though it takes further in the further like in the future, I feel like this one's weapons feel more like today's weapons than say Advanced Warfare, depending on what weapon you have, because I know like Advanced Warfare had like plasma like rifles or whatever the fuck they call them there. I don't know. But the next game is Just Cause 3. Now Just Cause 3 isn't really known for its story elements. Huge surprise, but one thing that Just Cause 3 is really good about is just creating mayhem and being able to get in all these cool vehicles in a gigantic map, a surprising amount of environmental destruction. This game has like some of the biggest explosions I've ever seen, possibly ever, in a video game, and it's awesome and satisfying. Now, you're not going to be able to bust through walls like a hammer, but I guess it kind of is like a hammer and with a hammer, like you could in Red Faction 3. But the environmental destruction is like way more advanced than, say, Just Cause 2. Maybe I'm looking through it through rose-colored glasses. I really like Just Cause 2. I don't remember anything about the story because I didn't play it that much, and that's one of the kind of issues with Just Cause 3. It's a nice looking game, it's really fun to play, but not really playing it for the story. Don't really care. I think the story's a little slightly more interesting than the second game. I never really played the first game beside a demo, so if you asked me what happened in the first Just Cause, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, you get to do a little bit more with the grappling hook, but it's kind of more of the same except a nicer version, and you just go around liberating cities and stuff like that. One of the things I kind of don't care for is some of the stuff that you unlock, like you have to do side missions to unlock simple stuff, like over the shoulder precise mode. I don't want to call it crosshair mode, but basically that game's version of the third person crosshair, where it zooms in, like more precise aiming. Like, you have to unlock that. That's like a standard feature in like other games, but some stuff I could see how you could level up, but like some stuff, like I think should be unlocked already, like nitro for certain vehicles I feel like should be unlocked. I don't feel like you should have to earn to have that. Maybe earn the ability to have it in every vehicle, but some vehicles should have it and maybe some shouldn't. I don't know. I just think some of the stuff they make you quote unquote level up or unlock, and you have to do these side missions that earn these little gears that are, and they're gears that are only specific to one type of gameplay. So you can't accumulate like a bunch of gears, as far as I know, like, and spread it across like different aspects. Maybe you can, and I just didn't do it, but as far as I know, like, each gear is specific to a specific ability, because the ability doesn't unlock until you do those things. So maybe if you unlocked a bunch, you can use the gears for different stuff, but in order to unlock the ability to be able to buy it, you have to complete these little side missions, which sometimes, because the control isn't as refined as I would say Grand Theft Auto, it's a little bit looser and stuff like that, so some of the time trials and stuff like that, at least to me, are a little bit more frustrating because the control doesn't seem as tight. But all in all, great game. I had a blast. I was going to either add this or Mad Max, because they're both made by Avalanche Studios, and I just found myself having more fun with this game, and I only wanted one Avalanche game on here, and I just had fun with this. And it really just comes down to my love of environmental destruction. I love having the parachute and the grappling hook, and you can use your grappling hook to like connect to things, and then actually have the wire like retract, and depending on how much strength the wire has, you actually can pull it down. And it's just one of those games that's just fun to fuck around with. Like Mad Max, like, it's very specific. You got to go and unlock things, and I'm not saying Mad Max is bad, but I'm just saying it's very specific. There's not a lot of room for fucking around, because you got like limited supplies and gas, etc., and what you do in Mad Max has to be very specific and deliberate. I mean, you're not going to run out of gas in like 1 second. There's wiggle room, but I mean, this one's just fun, and the game's not particularly deep, but there's a lot to do, and I can see me playing it for quite some time. So yeah, number 9 was Just Cause. Number 8, a lot of you guys are going to get pissed off. Before I say number 8 as well, I wanted to also say, as of right now, Just Cause 3, one of the biggest gripes I have, which for some reason I forgot to mention, are the loading times. They're pretty bad. I don't know what they're like on PC, but they really need to try to fix that, I think, anyway, because like when you're doing these little challenges to unlock the little features and you want to get a perfect score and you want to retry it again, and like if you're in a race, sometimes you know you're not going to win the race or get the fastest time. You're going to want to restart, and you could restart early in that time trial, and yeah, like it's a pain in the ass if you gotta stop and push retry and then wait 2 to 3 minutes, because that's how long some of the load times are. And I'm aware of what it was like in the past to have long load times. My first computer was a Commodore 64, which I gamed the hell out of on Game. That sounds like something like some like frat boy be like, let's game, bro. Or bruh, whatever they say. I don't know. I never was a frat boy. It's what I see on the TV. But anyway, yeah, the load times are pretty bad. And like I said, I was used to playing on the Commodore 64 where the load times are even longer. Sega CD, bad PC ports on the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, even the Dreamcast with the Soldier Fortune. Man, that have long load times. But I feel like I'm beyond that now, and maybe I'm just getting old and less patient, but it kind of irritates me a little bit with this, because I feel like this is something that probably could have been fixed. Maybe they were rushing the game out for holiday season. I'm hoping that they fix it with a patch, but still, it doesn't ruin the game enough. I just wanted to mention it. I think Just Cause 3 is a great time. Don't play the game if you're looking for story. It's just more of the same. Just Cause 2 on crack. To me, what more could you ask for? Anyway, number 8, you guys aren't going to like it. Well, some of you aren't going to like it, but I have to say Star Wars Battlefront. I just like it. It's a simple arcade shoot 'em up game. There's not a lot of content in it for $60, but let me tell you a little story. There was this game I played in the arcade back in the day. It was called Crazy Taxi. You might have heard of it. And I remember every time I got $1, I would put the dollar in and play it for like fucking, I don't know, 3 minutes. Had best time ever. Couldn't stop playing it. It was at an amusement park, and instead of thinking about the roller coaster, I wanted to go in the arcade and play Crazy Taxi. I was obsessed with the game. It was one of the most fun games I ever played, and it was short and it was sweet. And I think it cost like $1 or $2 to play, and it's all I wanted to do. And I was at an amusement park. I had access to any ride I wanted to. We had seasons pass. It was King's Dominion, if you're familiar with that area or that amusement park. Sorry, it's late, and I really want to get this done, and I'm not used to looking at a list and talking. The only thing I see right now is like the sound waves from my voice, so it's not the most exhilarating thing to work from. Usually I can watch a video of me playing the game or talk while I'm playing the game and have something to work off of, so forgive me. But anyway, back to my story. And I said whatever system this game comes on, if it ever comes on a system, because I didn't know at the time, I have to have it, you know. And it was right before the Dreamcast came out, and I thought to myself, I was like, the Dreamcast is made by Sega, Crazy Taxi is made by Sega, I have to have this game, you know. And the Dreamcast was famous for a lot of like as close to the arcade as you could possibly get ports, because a lot of the arcade games at the time, especially made by Sega and Capcom, ran on the Namely board, I believe it was called. So you would get like perfect ports of the arcade game and then some. So at the time I paid $50 for Crazy Taxi, which, gosh, if you put inflation into the mix now, that probably would have been $70 or $80 American. So yeah, that game only had 2 tracks. And how long did a match usually win? Because I'm not that good at Crazy Taxi. Probably 2 minutes. So here we are back to Star Wars. A lot of people are bitching. There's not enough content. The gameplay is so simple. And they want you to buy DLC, and there's not enough single player content. It's not as good as the old Battlefront games. The old Battlefront games had all this extra stuff that aren't in the other ones, even though, in my humble opinion, and I have played Battlefront recently, yeah, it doesn't have all the modes that the original Battlefronts do. But what was disguised as a campaign were multiplayer matches with bots that happen to have cutscenes before them. Even Galactic Conquest had a nice little board game aspect to it, but it was essentially a multiplayer match with bots. It did have space battles that were really cool in Battlefront 2, and it had more maps. At least Battlefront 2 did. Yeah, but for what it is, I have a really good time. And to be honest with you, since I've been having some of the harder times in my life, I've been finding myself going back to Battlefront again and again. And yeah, it doesn't have all the stuff all these newer games have, like you know, like your Elder Scroll games or your Grand Theft Autos, where there's a ton of shit to do and it's not focused with single player. But it's a game I can pop in for 15 minutes like I used to with like Crazy Taxi, like an arcade game that I have at my house, and I could play, stop, and do something else. My focus has been really difficult to keep on anything for an extended period of time. So this game's perfect. It's in the Star Wars universe. Everything was scanned, so it's almost like a museum piece to me. Like, I'm looking at the weapons, little scorch marks on them, little rust. I could play a little spaceship game and the squadron mode and stuff like that, and or I can fight people in the first person or third person mode. And there's little modes. All the modes you really want to play are like the team deathmatch mode, conquest, walker assault. I really like the spaceship mode. I can't think of what it's called. You'll see it in the videos. I keep on thinking it's like squadron or something like that, but it's really awesome. And will I get the DLC? I don't know, but the game as it is now, yeah, it's not going to be around forever, but we're not going to be around forever. Everything technically is a rental, and as finicky as the damn consoles are now, as they're getting more PC-like, who the hell knows if your console's going to run? You don't know that. I mean, yes, it would be nice if they had a single-player campaign. I would love to have the detail in Star Wars Battlefront for like a huge campaign with the amount of content they put in Call of Duty. But you know what? I keep on finding myself going back to Star Wars Battlefront. I like it. I'm not trying to be one of those people that are just giving money to them in because everybody else likes it, because I never play a game just because everybody else likes it. If that was the case, I would probably not own and have multiple replays of Alien Colonial Marines and Duke Nukem Forever, because I think those games are fun and great. I just play what I enjoy, and I happen to enjoy Star Wars Battlefront. I played the beta, which was only 2 modes, and I kept on playing it over and over again because it's fun, and it takes me back to a time where I was playing with the action figures. It's quick, it's like an arcade game, and it kind of reminds me, like I said, back in the day when I had a Dreamcast, and I would pay full price for these short arcade experiences because they were pick up and play, drop it, and like, you know, have to go run errands. You know, if you're not up to playing video games but you want it just to break for a little while, like emotionally, like I've been dealing with, you know, I could just play it, stop it, and then do something else. I don't have to get absorbed into an hour to 2 hour gameplay experience. So yeah, I would recommend Star Wars Battlefront if you like arcade shooting like games. And it's geared towards more casual players, but seems like everybody's getting good, because if you see the video, my ass basically gets handed to me unless you play like for a consistent amount of time, which I've been really bad about with video games lately. You get your ass handed to you, but I'm not as bad as on the video. It's just I haven't really played as much of Battlefront as maybe I would like to. A lot of times lately I've been watching more movies and stuff, but when it comes to video games, that's typically the game I'd be going to be honest with you. And I like it. I personally think it's great. It's number 8, and I recommend it, but proceed with caution. Read everybody's opinions, because people have very strong opinions about it, to the point where they're calling people names that end up buying it, and I think it's ridiculous, because we're all temporary. We're all going to be obsolete one day. We all die one day. Nothing's forever. If you enjoy something, play it because you enjoy it, not because some other, I'm going to call him a name, motherfucker, tells you not to. Do whatever the fuck you want and enjoy it, because life's short and it's just fucking video games. And if you get a little bit of pleasure out of it, fuck it, do it, enjoy it, whatever. Next game is Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat X. Well, it's Mortal Kombat, but this is a fighting game that doesn't have it has like 4 characters you can buy. I think the DLC is a little bit expensive for 4 characters. I'm sure they'll come out with a Game of the Year edition, but now they announced 4 more characters. I don't know if that's covered in the season's pass or not. If it is, it gives the season pass like way more value. But even without the season's pass, it has so much content. From like every time you fight, you earn coins and stuff like that, and you go to the crypt, and this time it's like a first person crypt versus like this menu screen that you go left and right. The Mortal Kombat games have been known to like since the PlayStation 2 one. I guess that would be Mortal Kombat 5 if I'm keeping score. Was it called Deadly Alliance? It's a while. There was Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon, I believe. And then there was Mortal Kombat versus DC. I think that one was kind of skimpy on the content, but once Mortal Kombat, or Mortal Kombat 9 as some people refer to it, came out, there's a shitload of stuff to unlock. So you unlock fatalities and all this other stuff. You could be playing the game for months and you wouldn't have everything unlocked before you resort to the DLC. And to be honest with you, if you play some of these online specials that switch up, because there's like these little towers that you can pick that switch all the time online. You don't need a required online connection to play the game, but it definitely adds to the game, where there's challenges that let you actually try the DLC characters sometimes to see if you like them. And beside that, you have this pretty long story mode that lets you play all these different characters with cutscenes in between. And then to top it off, there's like an arcade mode where each character has an individual ending. There's just so much shit to do. And there's different towers, different challenges like Test Your Might, which harkens back to the kind of like the challenges in the original Mortal Kombat, where you like chop the wood or ruby or whatever the hell you were trying to chop. It would progressively get harder and stuff like that. And the fatalities are the goriest that I've seen. The graphics are awesome. The environments are interactive, where you can shove the enemies into different things or throw stuff at them, and it's just well refined, and you can tell that the developers really had a good time enjoying it. And it's Mortal Kombat 10, which sounds really ridiculous. That's probably why they kind of call it X to soften the blow, like this is the 10th entry. But it's just so refined and so much fun, and it's a great game for somebody who might not always play fighting games. It's accessible. Some games like Street Fighter, if 2 unexperienced people play, Yeah, it's fun. You can beat it with button mashes, but if somebody knows what they're doing, it's a lot more technical. Mortal Kombat is somewhat technical, but I think anybody can play it, and the move list is easy to get to. You know, in Street Fighter, when you pull up the move list, and I love Street Fighter. I can't wait till Street Fighter 5 comes out. I loved Street Fighter 4. The only Street Fighter I didn't really get into was the original, and I don't care for the Alpha series as much, and I didn't really play 3, but 2 and 4 I really like, and they're actually kind of similar to each other. I was about to say all these Street Fighter games, and then I dwindled my list down to 2 games, and looking forward to 5, so I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But yeah, like, if you try to look up the move list, even though you're playing as, like, let's say Chun-Li, which is my personal favorite person to play as Street Fighter, it's one of the few people I can actually remember the moves beside, like, Ryu or whatever, or Ryu. I've heard people say it both ways, so that way I covered my ass. One of them's right. But yeah, like, when you try to select the move list on that, you get a list of, like, every character's name. It's like, why would I want to know a character's move list that I'm not playing as? But Mortal Kombat goes straight to it. Tells you the fatality. You have one fatality unlocked, and as you play, you get the coins, and then you unlock more fatalities, outfits, artwork, music, etc., etc., etc. There's just so much to do, and it's a great game. If you have a friend that wants to kind of play video games, that's hanging out or whatever, or your significant other, and you want to play something, 2 players that you both have fun playing on the couch with or whatever, which is kind of rare with these days with games coming out. There's not a lot of 2-player experiences, but it's great. And for a fighting game, if you ask me if you were like what fighting game to get and you were new to fighting games, I would pick Mortal Kombat 10 before Street Fighter. I like that series just as much. I haven't played Street Fighter 5, so there's kind of slim pickings as far as fighting games go on the PS4, but you know, there's a few, but the other fighting games are more technical, maybe beside Dead or Alive 5, which is actually pretty fun, but you know, that one might turn off a few people because of its tongue-in-cheekness with the girls in their skimpy little outfits. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 10 RX, depending on who you are. It's an amazing game. I wish it had some more of the original characters in it, but they're trying to put old and new characters, which there's nothing wrong with creating new characters. I guess the older characters are just nostalgic to me. I don't know. But I think they're a little bit less interesting, but the old characters are probably less interested in Mortal Kombat 1. So yeah, definitely check it out. Next on the list for number 6 is Tomb Raider, for Rise of the Tomb Raider to be more exact, for the Xbox 360. I want to be specific, and this is the Xbox 360 version I'm talking about. Typically when you get a current gen game, because right now Rise of the Tomb Raider is exclusive for the Microsoft platforms, it'll be released on PC sometime earlier next year, and then I heard it's coming on PlayStation 4 later in the year, which if that's the case, I will definitely get it, because I absolutely love the Xbox 360 version, and I wasn't originally going to get it because a lot of times when these current gen games come out, they'll come out with this gimped ass fucking port of the 7th gen that's not even worth playing, that runs at like 2 frames per second. Everything looks like shit. But they didn't do that. They outsourced it to this company that actually gave a damn. It doesn't look nearly as good as what I've seen from the Xbox One version. But, you know, and it's a lot coming from me to say that this version's still fun. It takes a little bit to get used to. I was playing Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, which looks really nice on the PlayStation 4. It runs at 60 frames per second. I don't think the Xbox One version of Tomb Raider Definitive Edition ran at 1080p and 60 frames per second. I'm curious how the PlayStation 4 version is going to come out. Like, am I going to be kind of let down if I play Rise of the Tomb Raider and it runs on 30 when the first one ran at 60? You know, it almost feels like a step backwards, but that's a completely different conversation. But anyway, at first, you're going to play it. If you're used to playing, like, the definitive edition, you're like, oh, this is so hard to play. But after 5 seconds, like, it looks as good as, like, the first Tomb Raider remake on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it's fun, and the levels aren't horribly compromised. It just doesn't have the fanciest textures and lighting systems. You know, some of the real-time lighting simulate it, but some of it isn't. Like, some of the shadows and like when a projector shined on me, you actually could see the image of the projector reflecting, like, on my back and stuff like that. I was playing, and it's fun, and it runs smooth. I don't think it runs consistently at 30 frames per second. Sometimes it occasionally dips depending on what's going on, but it's fun. It retains those action elements of Tomb Raider that I like so much. It adds more tombs. It feels like more of the same, but that's exactly what I wanted. That's all I wanted and expected. I didn't. If I wanted to play a different game, I wouldn't play Rise of the Tomb Raider. And you know what? I almost missed out on it until I was reading Digital Foundry's article of Rise of the Tomb Raider, because I saw it at Target. I forgot all about them having an Xbox 360 version. I was kind of bummed I wasn't going to be able to play it, but I said, you know what? If Uncharted's coming out on PlayStation 4 fairly early next year, and I figured, well, I'll have Uncharted because honestly, I think Nathan Drake's a slightly more likable character. He's a little bit more charismatic. Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, the remake Tomb Raider, so Lara Croft is a little bit, I don't know, like, serious and realistic, whereas Nathan Drake's kind of like Indiana Jones, where he kind of like jokes to himself, and he kind of has like this wit to him. Like, Nolan North is just an amazing, like, voice actor, and he just brings so much personality to all the characters he voices. And I think Uncharted and Tomb Raider, gameplay wise, are pretty equal. So I enjoy both series just as much. I like both tones, but I will give the slight edge to Uncharted as far as personality goes. But yeah, this game's awesome, and it adds more tombs. It takes everything that you liked about the original Tomb Raider and adds to it. And like I said, I wasn't sure if I was gonna play it. Now they're saying, some sites are saying that's coming out on PlayStation 4, and I hope they're right. I hope they have time to add some extra polish. Maybe we'll get 60 frames per second on the PS4. That's wishful thinking, probably, because they unlocked like some extra power since the definitive edition on Xbox One. So, because I noticed that Rise of the Tomb Raider on Xbox One, I believe, runs at 1080p when the definitive edition did not, and runs at 30 frames per second. And I know they're pushing a lot more post-processing effects and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I would be happy to get the higher res version for sure. And if it comes out on PlayStation 4, as long as I have the money, like, I'll definitely get it and not think twice about it. But yeah, the article Digital Foundry's like, yeah, we're surprised too. This runs just as good as the Xbox One version as far as gameplay goes. Nothing is missing. It's just pared back a little bit graphic wise, and that's about it. And I was like, if that's the only compromise, I mean, obviously that would be a logical one, but if the gameplay is there and it looks as good and is as fun as the original, I'm down. And I trusted the article, and I took a chance. It was cheaper than like a brand new current gen Tomb Raider game, and it's well worth it. So if you don't have an Xbox One, or you haven't upgraded the current gen consoles and you happen to have a 360, I highly recommend getting Rise of the Tomb Raider, and that's number 6. Number 5 is the Uncharted collection. So you're basically getting 3 Uncharted games remastered, 1080p, 60 frames per second. Not only that, they went back and redid all the mechanics so all the games are matched up. I never finished the first Uncharted because I thought that the shooting mechanics were kind of clunky. Some people complain about 3 shooting mechanics and the way it controls. They felt like there was some lag on it from what I read in forums and shit like that and articles. I never noticed it. I finished the second and third Uncharted, but I never finished the first one. So I was like, it's a perfect opportunity to go back, and man, they improved everything. It's just an awesome experience, and it's nice to go back to 2 and 3, to be honest with you, and it's all on the one disc. The only thing, how they fit what they did on the disc is amazing, but the only downfall is that it doesn't have the co-op multiplayer. It doesn't have the competitive multiplayer and all that stuff. To be honest, I never played it once. I think I might have played it on a early access beta, so it's not that important to me. But to have 3 of some of the best games on PlayStation 3 remastered, 60 frames per second at 1080p, and I didn't think the games could look any better. And to be honest with you, the frame rate looks a little bit better and the textures look a little bit better, but I still feel like the PlayStation 3 versions hold up really well. So again, if you have not upgraded the current gen and you still have a 7th gen PlayStation 3, for whatever reason haven't played the Uncharted games, what are you waiting for? But anyway, yeah, and like I said in the when I was talking about Tomb Raider, I'm gonna edge it out for Uncharted. Just the value alone for 3 games versus 1, I had to put it above Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I think Nathan Drake's personality, I just always feel like Nathan Drake kind of says what you're feeling as a gamer, where Lara Croft is just super serious. Like, it's almost like Nathan Drake almost knows he's like in a video game. I don't know how to explain it, but he's just a little bit more charismatic. Like I said, I like both games pretty equal, and I'm not gonna lie, Uncharted borrowed from the older Tomb Raider games and perfected it, and then Tomb Raider borrowed from Uncharted. Now with Uncharted 4, it looks like Uncharted's borrowing a little bit from Tomb Raider, which is kind of funny because I saw on like one of the E3 videos where Nathan Drake actually took like I forgot what, like spikes or something, instead of like Lara Croft's pickaxes to climb ice and stuff like that. I'm like, that's what Lara Croft did. So it's funny how they're borrowing from each other, but I don't mind, because the more great adventure games I can play, the better. And if you're like, a lot of people own an Xbox 360 and went to PlayStation 4, so here's your chance to play the Uncharted games, but not only play them, but get 3 in one game, like one disc. How the hell again they managed to put all that stuff on one disc is beyond me, because I thought that the discs were packed beyond capacity with all the stuff, but maybe the multiplayer had a huge chunk of the data. I don't know. So you're missing out on the multiplayer. I'm not particularly concerned about that aspect. It might bother you, but it's really the only way to play it on PlayStation 4. I don't think there's any other option. Maybe they'll release something later down, but that's me talking out of my ass. Don't count on it. But Uncharted 4 is around the corner, and I think they're adding all the multiplayer stuff you're missing. So you can't go wrong with the Uncharted collection. What can I say? 3 great games, and they're worth experiencing over and over again. And for the first time, I'm kind of jealous if you're playing it for the first time, because how great is that? So number 5 is Uncharted collection. I'm not trying to take anything away from Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I'm not even playing the best version of Rise of the Tomb Raider that's currently out at the moment. So, but if I had to stack them up, 3 games versus 1, you know. And yeah, so definitely, I was about to say, and the first game isn't as good as the last two that came out, part 2 and 3, but they refined part 1 so it plays just as good as 2 and 3. So I don't know, I'm rambling. I still had to take the dog for a walk. Isn't this such an official video? I'm starting to talk about the errands I still have to run. But anyway, number 4, The Witcher 3. This is a more accessible version of The Witcher, and they patched the shit out of this game to actually add features on consoles that are kind of unheard of, like taking turning off post-processing effects, changing the control animations. Like you have realistic control where he actually has to like walk around in a circle, or you can switch it to like a more video game like control where if you push the opposite direction, your character automatically goes in that direction without having to physically turn around and stuff like that. There's a lot of options. The Witcher games are typically more difficult, not always because like there's a lot of shit coming out of you. Sometimes that is the case, but it's more of a technical game where you have to plan out stuff with potions and stuff like that. And the world is so realized. There's so many quests that you can do. Sure, the PC version looks immaculate and amazing and runs incredible as long as you have the power to back it up with, but it looks great on consoles, and I can't say enough good things about it. The only thing that I would say, even though this is the more accessible version, it's a lot to take in for somebody who's new to the series. I'm fairly new. I never played the first Witcher. I played the second Witcher on the Xbox 360. I never finished it. Didn't play it as much as I would like to, but The Witcher 3 is awesome, but it's also kind of intimidating for newer players who aren't used to playing RPGs. Even for somebody like me who's used to playing, I guess, Japanese RPGs, sometimes like the mechanics and stuff like that take a little bit getting used to, but everything's streamlined for the controller, and once you figure it out, you can run it with ease. Like, not on the game, I mean like you can play the game with ease, and it's just great. And the characters, well, the main character you play as, Geralt, I think his name is, I can't remember offhand. I just played the game, but I had the sound down. But yeah, the main character is really likable and stuff like that. Some of these games that I'm talking about, and you'll notice in the videos, the video portion of this actual video, that I'm not controlling it all that well. It's because I've tried to play all these games in the same day, and it's been a while since I've played like some of these games. So when I was playing The Witcher during the video that's playing right now, I forgot how to control it, and there's little nuances and stuff like that you have to remember. Like, you have to remember that this series originally came to PC, and then the second one was ported to console, and then they made the third one with the console in mind as well as the PC, and every button on the control pad's utilized. So when you haven't played it for a while and you go back, it's kind of intimidating, to be honest with you, and I was pushing the wrong buttons left and right. But there's not a lot wrong I can say with The Witcher beside it can be a little intimidating, discouraging at first, but don't let it discourage you, because there's an amazing adventure waiting behind all the intimidating factors. Sound like somebody's trying to tell you to go to like Disney World or something. I like stopped myself. I stopped there for a second. I was like, man, what I'm saying kind of sounds hokey, but The Witcher 3 is an amazing game. And that's my number 4. Number 3 is Fallout 4. Now, before I even started playing the game of Fallout 4, which, first of all, I'm gonna say that a lot of people have been complaining about the graphics. I think Fallout 4 intentionally has a certain look about it to kind of look like the art from the 1950s, since it's supposed to kind of have like that World of Tomorrow vibe. But I really like the vibrant colors and aesthetics of this. You actually get to see what the world looked like before the bombs drop, which is really cool. But Fallout 4 is so involved. Like, I found myself spending like at least a half an hour just creating my character, you know? And I'm like, alright, I better move on. And then after I was creating my character, then I found out you could build shit. And then I was like building shit like I was playing Minecraft or something. I didn't even care about the main game. I was just picking up whatever scraps I could find. And then you get a buddy, and then you can find your guns, and then you can take apart the guns and then piece together like a better gun. It's just everything that you can touch. Like before, you'd pick up all this crap and you'd like sell it for like 2 bottle caps and stuff like that, and it's like, ooh, big reward. But this time, actually picking up all the shit from the ground and breaking it up into simple pieces actually helps you like build like forts and parts for your gun, and it's just a blast. And the one thing I'll bitch about, I know that the average game does not come with an instruction manual this day and age, and I can understand that you don't need an instruction manual for a game like Call of Duty because they all have the same control schemes. But Fallout 4, instead of making that Pit-Boy poster, you could have made a page with a picture of that poster on it, and that would have been just fine of the leveling up system that they give you a poster for. Instead of making that, I know Fallout 4 is supposed to be a discovery experience, and I get that, but to not know what the controls are to do specific things is kind of bullshitty if you ask me. But thank goodness for the internet, because the internet helps a lot. And I know I'm not the only one out there, because the minute that game came out, there was like a ton of like tutorial videos explaining everything, and without those videos, man, I don't know how much enjoyment I would have got out of the game initially. I might have had like more of a rough time as I was trying to explore a way to control the game and to build stuff. But since luckily all these fantastic people out there put up all these tutorials and stuff like that, my enjoyment factor of the game like rose immensely in a short amount of time, and I didn't have to deal with the bullshit, and I knew how to do stuff, and I still explored, I still figured out stuff. You know, you never know what you can turn your gun into until you break the parts down. You can see what's available, and you never know what you're gonna find in a cabinet or whatever, or what kind of weird people you run into and what's in the city. And the shooting mechanics, I know the PC version can run at 60 frames per second, and I'm sure it's a blast, but I'm playing it on console again. I know a lot of you PC people are probably frowning on me like, what the hell is he doing? I can't help it. I just like consoles. I like the exclusive. That's a whole different conversation on its own. But I've played many first-person shooters at 30 frames per second, and as long as the frame rate is steady 30 frames per second, which I will admit it wasn't just recently, it wasn't bad though either. It was tolerable when it went under 30 frames per second. And Fallout, since it has the VAT system, you can kind of compensate, and the VAT system's a little bit different, where the enemies and stuff can still move when it pauses. It's just slowed down a lot more. Like in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, the stuff would stop completely and you could take forever to figure out what you wanted to do. Not so much so while you're in the VAT system, people are still shooting at you, but I mean, it still works good, because you can get a headshot with one bullet without trying versus aiming. But I have to say the shooting mechanics and stuff like that are a little bit more accessible. As far as the, what is it, the Ridex or whatever, I forgot what gets rid of Radex, whatever gets rid of the radiation is hard to find, and everything in that game so radiated, and when your radiation levels go, or your rad levels go up, it's hard to find like health and stuff like that. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. When your radiation levels are up, there's like this red part on your health bar that starts to grow at the opposite end, so you can't fill your health up all the way. I wish there was a little bit less stim packs and an equal amount of the items. I can't think of them what they're called offhand that get rid of the radiation, because I never see them enough to remember what they're called. And I'm guessing they're encouraging you to craft them, because you actually have like a chemistry table that you can craft like the stuff that gets rid of radiation out of your system. But like in a bind, sometimes you have to eat radiated food when you don't have a stim pack. Although the game seems to give you quite a bit more stim packs than I remember. It's just a all overall more accessible Fallout experience, and I know some purists are bitching about it, but I think it's fun. I like the simplified conversation, like 4 option system that they have that's similar to Mass Effect's. I think it works fine if you ask me, but that's because I really like Mass Effect, and it's just an overall great game. I can't recommend it enough, and that is why it is my number 3. So number 2, Batman Arkham Knight. First of all, on behalf of all you PC people, I am so sorry, and I'm not doing this to be sarcastic. I'm sorry that they fucked up with the game. If you have a console that can actually play it, like, I would definitely get that, because the companies admitted they're not going to get the PC version to work right. You can boycott it, but you know, it's a big company. You're not going to hurt it at all. Like, all the people that bought the game, whether it was on PC or console already, they've already made up the budget. So you can be angry or pissed off about it. You can voice your opinion, but they're not going to lose sleep over it for real. They might do a better job on the next version of the game. I hope they come out with a new Arkham, but I'm really sorry that you didn't get to experience like one of the best. And that wasn't like a laugh at you laugh. That was, I don't even know why I laughed there, to be honest with you. Sorry about that. I'm not being disrespectful, because I literally feel bad that you got such better than the console ports of Arkham City, Arkham Origins, and Arkham Asylum. Like, you got, like, in Arkham Origins and Arkham City, it actually had like physics, I don't know what the system's called, where like there's more physics and like the smoke particles and more stuff floating in the air. Like, you guys got the superior version for sure. I'm sorry that the Arkham Knight version is so shit. Like, I don't know what to say, but anyway, great game, open world. Like, there's not an inch of the world that doesn't feel like it's thought out. The story's great. I'm glad that they don't follow the comics completely, so they're not afraid of killing off certain characters, so everybody's fair game. It's not like you can read the comic and be like, oh, this is going to happen to so-and-so. You don't know. This is its own universe, which is great. Like, they kind of follow like the canon, like, of what takes place maybe before the storyline as far as the comics go, but as far as the Arkham universe goes, anything that happens from Arkham Asylum, well, I guess Arkham Origins would be the first one, Arkham Origins and going forward, like, that's their story. So any like character that you think that they won't kill or staple to that comic book series or whatever. I don't read Batman regularly, but they kill off who they want when they want, and they let live when they want. So you never know what's going to happen, even if you read the source material. For instance, I know The Walking Dead doesn't always follow the comic book, but sometimes when things happen, people are like, oh, they're going to survive because A happens, B happens, C happens in the comic book, and sometimes they're right. You cannot predict anything that's going to happen in this game. What a great game. There was one day where I didn't actually go to bed. I was just so fucking sucked into this game. A lot of people bitch about the Batmobile being such a large part of the game. And you know what? It was a nice change if you ask me. Now, one thing I hope that they add in the next game, if they ever come out with one, I hope they don't do the Justice League or some campy 60s or 70s version of Batman, because that would kind of suck. But if it had the same mechanics, I would like it no matter what. Batman's actually had fairly good luck as far as video games go versus other superheroes. But, yeah. So I'm worried about the future. This is the final alleged Rocksteady Batman game. I can't talk much about the ending, and I'm not saying that because of anybody that lives or dies or whatever. I just don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm curious if they continue the story, what direction they'll go into, because the ending is very unique in an unexpected way. Unfortunately, unless you go on YouTube, you have to unlock every Riddler trophy ever, and some of the stuff ever. It's just said that like I was a Valley girl, but some of the trophies are only unlockable at certain times. So if you don't know exactly where that trophy is, like later on, that area might be destroyed, and you won't be able to unlock that trophy unless you're the Riddler trophy, unless you replay that part of the game, because it'll be locked forever. And sometimes I don't think that's necessarily fair, and it shouldn't be required to tell you what actually happens as far as the story goes. But you can watch the ending on YouTube, but I would at least suggest to get the normal ending before you do that, because I have no intentions of trying to get every Riddler trophy. I'm never one of those 100% completionists. Like, it's just too tedious to me. That's really the only negative thing I have to say. But I hope whatever incarnation Batman game comes out next, they have the Batwing, because the Batmobile was awesome, and the season pass is actually really cool too. Some of the stuff on the video you'll see is the Michael Keaton Batman. That's part of the DLC. I wanted to show the DLC and the 60s Batmobile. Unfortunately, the standalone missions are somewhat short, but they're nice to have. I got the I waited till the DLC was discounted, but there is over 100 hours worth of content on the normal disc, so this isn't one of those games you need to stress the DLC. It's just extra. And to be honest with you, a lot of you people are bitching about DLC, and I can understand you're bitching if like they deliberately left features out, but they're developing the stuff as we speak. It's not like they already had it released, and there were such things as expansion packs for the PC that did come out before a full-fledged sequel comes out. And I'm sure there'll be a Game of the Year edition where if you wait you can buy it all. Now, Rocksteady said they're not going to be able to completely fix the PC version. I don't know if they're being pessimistic so people leave them alone, or if that's true, or whatever. But I know at least playing on the PS4, it runs great. One thing I do wish they had an option for in the PS4 is to take that fucking grain filter off. I know they're trying to make it film-like, but it's distracting to me, especially if you sit as close to the TV as I do. I don't know why. I'm probably going to go blind later on in life, but I have to see everything up close. I can't play far away on the couch. It's just not comfortable to me. And I have like a 65-inch TV, which is really ridiculous to sit up close to it, but it's whatever. I have to do it when I play games. Call it more immersive, if you will. But yeah, like when you go to the character model screens and stuff like that, everything's so detailed, and a lot of that detail gets lost. And I know the grain filter is like an extra effect, so I would assume that it's taking away more resources. Maybe they're not showing that much detail in the normal game. I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I didn't make the game. But anyway, Arkham Knight is my second like top game of 2015 on the list. Try to play this game if you have any love for the Arkham games or Batman. I'm not telling you what to do, but I feel like if you don't play this game, you're really missing out. A lot of people might disagree with me, but that's my pick. Number 1, I feel bad for Kojima. I think Konami is being really shitty to to him and probably there are other employees of the company, and I was one of the people that didn't boycott the game because, you know, I kept up with Kojima's Twitter and stuff like that, and he was really proud of the game. Before all this shit happened, he was really proud of the game, and he worked really hard on it. And I felt like the way that he went out of his way, even though he wasn't required to, at the time Konami didn't want anything to do with him, and he still went out to like whatever the equivalent to the Japanese Kmart's and stuff were, or Walmart's, or wherever store they have local retailers, and went and just autographed strangers games. Like, if he didn't care and wanted people to play the game, and as much work as he puts into it, as many fans as he had, I think he wouldn't have gone out of his way to do all that. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm disrespecting him in any way to playing his game, because I want to play it because he made it. I think he's one of the greatest game directors slash designers, you know what I mean? He's one of them anyway. I have a few, but besides like Miyamoto, like how many, and Kojima, how many other game like designers can you actually say by name? There's not a lot. I mean, there's a few I could list off, but that's because I'm sort of nerdy and stuff like that to begin with. But yeah, so I didn't feel bad about buying this game, but I do feel bad the way Konami is treating him, his creation, and the employees, and I think it's really shitty. But at the same time, I think Kojima would want people to experience his game, and it's unfortunate. You could tell it was somewhat unfinished towards the end, because some of the missions are recycled towards the end. There's some loose ends, and at the credits there's like this long text list of like what happens history wise in the game leading up to the MSX Metal Gear, not Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear, because Metal Gear Solid chronologically is actually the third Metal Gear game to come out, but it leads up to like the Metal Gear games. I think it even tells you what happens in the Metal Gear Solid games, but you had to read like a list. You could tell it was obviously unfinished, but what was put in the game was amazing. It took me 2 months to finish it, because I'm not a huge marathon gamer, but yeah, that game, I didn't want to play anything else until it was done. There's just so much love put into that game. Kind of bummed that there weren't as many cutscenes. People kind of bitched about the long cutscenes, and I'm not gonna lie, Metal Gear Solid 4 had really long cutscenes in it, to the point where it was sort of ridiculous. Like, there's some cutscenes that were like 40 minutes. I remember needing to go pee, and I believe you can pause the cutscenes, but I'm not even sure about that, but I remember being scared, pushing the wrong button, and I would lose the storyline that I worked so hard to get. And I really like the cutscenes. See, me as a Metal Gear fan, I look forward to the cutscenes, and they're drastically cut, but the cutscenes that are there are really good because real people reenacted all that stuff, kind of like what they do with the Naughty Dog games, where they wear those little suits with the little ping pong balls on them or whatever it's on, that, and the reflective tape, and they're reenacting everything on props. And that Fox engine, man, or woman, depending on who's watching this, is simply amazing. And it's just so much detail, so many weapons, so many things to unlock, so much to do. Even though it's like unfinished, you can replay like the missions, and there might be something extra put into them. There's so many guns to unlock, and if you look at the guns, they're immaculately detailed. You can go in a first person mode that works great, like a regular first person shooter. You can drive vehicles. They're kind of clunky, but keep in mind, this is the first Metal Gear game that's ever been like this. And as far as Japanese games go, there haven't been a whole lot of Japanese games that are like this action oriented. Like, think about how many Japanese first-person shooters there are. There aren't a lot. That's more of a Western thing. So this is somewhat of a new genre for like a Japanese game development team to actually work on, and they just executed it so brilliantly. Now, I will admit there are parts of the level that are somewhat barren, and it's easy to take a wrong turn and get lost, but I guess that's how the real desert is. But then you come across these bases and you're getting shot at, and there's all these enemies, and they're calling reinforcements, and there's just so many different variables. Everybody's going to have a different experience every time they play it, and you can play it stealthy, you can play it like you're Rambo. Other Metal Gear games, 4 kind of let you do it a little bit with the freedom of choosing an action route, but like, let's say Metal Gear to Metal Gear Solid 3, and even Metal Gear Solid 3 was a little bit more lenient, but pretty much in all those games, if you took the action route, at some point you're going to die. This game, not so much. On the gameplay that you're watching now, probably, because again, I was playing all these different games to try to have video footage for every game that I do, instead of just filming me talking with a sheet of paper. Although I don't know which one's more interesting with my monotone voice. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the few that you have like actual freedom to play how you want to, and since it's an open world and different things happen, each time you play a level, it's going to be different every time, because there's not like a linear trail, you know. You can do whatever you want to, and it's just an amazing game. It was really hard to pick between Metal Gear and Batman, but ultimately I based it on how much time, and I spent almost as much time on Batman, but I spent a little bit more time with Metal Gear, and after 2 months I had I guess like 80 hours, probably closer to 90 or whatever. I don't know the exact time percentage, but I haven't played a game that long since maybe like a Japanese RPG on like PlayStation 2. The closest I spent that much time in like a 7th gen game would probably like the Mass Effect games, because I'm absolutely in love with those, and I can't wait to see what Mass Effect Andromeda what is going to be like. I can't wait. That's a different thing altogether. Always getting off task here. This video is already super long. I don't even know if you guys are gonna wait to this point. You might just scroll through and just see what the lists are, but I mean the games are for 2015. But anyway, probably gonna end it here. So Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. You don't necessarily need to play Ground Zeroes, which is a short game that you can pretty much beat in 15 minutes if you don't do any of the extra stuff, but you could probably get it for $5 too. You don't necessarily need to play it, but it does add some context to the game. I also would recommend getting the HD collection, which is probably super cheap on PlayStation 3 or the original Xbox 360, because this game kind of assumes that you know at least a little bit about the differences between Solid Snake, Naked Snake, etc., Big Boss, and like one's a clone of the other. I think PlayStation people are probably going to get more out of this because they have Metal Gear Solid 4, and that never came out on any other system, but you can play this game without knowing anything about Metal Gear, and it's still going to be fun because it's all around a fun game. But to get more context out of the story, you kind of have to play the other games or go on Wikipedia and read like a synopsis of it or something. I don't know. But you can have fun either way. But I'm just saying, if you're a fan of Metal Gear and played every single Metal Gear game, more things are going to make sense to you because nothing's spelled out. And a lot of what would probably have been cutscenes in the earlier games, a lot of the stuff are in like audio cassettes that you play in your old 70s, early 80s style Sony Walkman, which is really cool. Little details like that. And it has like 80s music, actual real 80s music, like they would play like on I guess the radio in the 80s are but like licensed music like Vice City had. Not as many songs as Vice City, but enough to get that 80s vibe. And the stuff that they actually made for the game, where you and you have to collect the little audio cassettes to actually have your soundtrack, but you can pick your soundtrack or make like play it like a mixtape and all this shit, and it's just really cool. So you can play without music, with music. You can pick what you want to play, or you could play like the little cutscene briefing tapes, and it's just cool, and it's all around a great game, and it's my number one pick for 2015. If you for some reason listen and watch this whole video, I'm saying listen because I'm looking at sound waves, but I'm tired and I realized that there's actually going to be a video behind it. I appreciate you sticking with the video, but anyway, this is a long video. There's a lot to cover, and I haven't even covered everything I wanted to talk about. I need to make individual videos of some of this stuff, but I might make I was gonna say I'll probably, but then I stopped myself. I might make videos before the end of the year, but this is probably just in case I don't. This is like my end of the year video, and like I said, I'm putting out a little bit earlier if you still want to go shopping for yourself or maybe your significant other or friend, family member, or whatever. But anyway, 2015 top 10 honorable mentions. This video is way long, I know, I'm sorry, but I wanted to make sure that I did it and I covered everything, kind of make up for the lack of videos I've been putting out. But I know you guys don't like long videos, but you know what, there's an amazing history feature on YouTube, so you can start watching a little bit of this video if you're still interested. I'm not telling you what to do now, and then you can watch the rest of it later. Sorry I'm tired. Like, I had no idea it was going to take this long to film. I thought it was going to be short, but it didn't work out that way. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for being patient with the channel. I apologize that this video is so long. I always try to think of stuff to say, and then I always find myself going on these long tangents, so I apologize. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you on the next video.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching!